I have this pink fabric here, and this is what I'll be using to recreate the style. I have about 3 yards here. This fabric is a little bit stretchy. For this style, I'll advise that you use a stretchy fabric. You can use crepe or any fabric of your choice. This one I'm using is called Charmaine in the city where I live. I would also be making use of a zip and 2 buttons. I have my basic bodice pattern, the front pattern on the table. And the first thing I have here is the shoulder line, the chest line, the bust line, and the waist line. Shoulder to the chest line is 8.5 inches, to the bust line is 11 inches, and to the waist line is 16 inches. I've drafted my basic bodice already, as you can see, and I've taken in my bust measurements, the waist measurements. This is a dartless pattern, and for the neck width, I use 3 inches. So just draft your basic bodice pattern. You don't need a neck depth for this front pattern. Just mark a neck width of 3 inches. Mark your bust measurements, your waist measurements without a dart, and connect all the dots together and cut it out. Use your marker to indicate where the shoulder starts from. Now from the chest line, I'm going to mark a line slantly to the center point of the bust line. Just connect like you see me doing, and then I'm going to cut it out. I'm not going to cut it entirely open, just to the tip of the armhole. We are going to make use of this bone to cut out the front cowl, the cowl neck in front of the dress. Moving on to the back, I have drafted the basic pattern for the back, and the first thing I have by the side of the paper is my zip allowance of 1.5 inches. Now for the neck width, I also used 3 inches and a neck depth of 1 inch. I have marked the bust measurement, the waist measurement, and the dart allowance of 1 inch is included in the waist measurements. That is all for the back. Just cut it out exactly the way you drafted your back pattern. Note that there is no allowance included in drafting the pattern. It is when I'm transferring to fabric that I will add all the necessary seam allowance. Now from the neckline, I'll come down by 1.5 inches, and from that point, I'll go out by 2.5 inches and make a mark there. Connect those 2 points together and extend it into the zip allowance. From the point where I marked the 1.5 inches, I'll come down to 7.5 inches, depending on how wide I want the opening at the back to be. And from that point, I'll go out by 4.5 inches and I'll connect with a straight line, extending that line into the zip allowance. And I'll connect from the top to the bottom, just like you see me doing. Also, use your cuff to connect the bottom part like you see me doing. The next thing is to tighten both sides of the dart leg at the neckline there. Tighten it by ½ inch on both sides and connect it with a straight line into the waistline. So I'm going to cut off this dart on the pattern. We don't have to take a dart on the fabric, so I'm going to close this dart now so that we can have a dartless pattern. That is all on the back pattern. I'll cut it out now. Another thing I'm going to do here is to trim off the zip allowance at the top. There is no need for a zip allowance. I am going to add loops and buttons there. Now to the lower part of the dress. I have the waistline, hip line, knee line, and the skirt length. Now for the length of this pattern, it is 30 inches. So you can decide on the length you want. Mark your waist measurements divided by 4. Same with your hip. At the knee line, you can reduce 1 inch from what you have at the hip line. Mark it at the knee line and also mark the same thing at the skirt length line. So take all your body measurements on the pattern. No need to include that on this pattern. Once you are done marking all the necessary measurements, you can cut it out. I have transferred mine to fabric here. This is the front part. I added half inch allowance at the top, 1.5 inches by the side, and 1.5 inches at the bottom. I'll take out the pins from the pattern now. I'll use the same pattern to cut out the back. I have cut out the back piece here. I have 1.5 inches here for zip allowance, half inch at the top. By the side I have 1.5 inches, and at the bottom I have 1.5 inches. I'm just going to notch the points where the zip allowance starts from. I'll take out the pattern. To eliminate any bulginess at the back along the zipper area, I'll go in by 0.75 at the waistline and connect it back into the zip allowance. After connecting, I'll cut it out. Also at the top, I'll come down by 1 inch. I'll connect it back into the waistline and cut it out. This is the upper part of the front. My fabric is folded into two. The space in between the opening I have there is 8 inches. You can decide to do more than 8 inches. You can do 9, 10, or you can even do lower than 8 inches, depending on what you want. The more you go up, the more opening you will have at the front. Connect the shoulder line like you see me doing and add all the necessary allowance. At the top, I'll add half inch. Along the armhole, I will add half inch. On the side, I'll add 1.5 inches, same allowance I added to the lower part. At the bottom, I'll add half inch. After adding all the necessary allowance, I'll cut it out. Now this is what we have for the front part. I'm going to use this one to cut out another piece. I'll be using the same fabric for my lining, so I'm going to have two of this one. I have cut out the second piece here, and I'm going to place it on each other, right side facing. And the first thing I'm going to do is to stitch along the neckline and the armhole. I'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch along the neckline with half inch and along the armhole with half inch. For the back piece, I added half inch allowance along the opening at the back, at the top, along the shoulder and the neckline, along the armhole. On the side, I added 1.5 inches. At the bottom, half inch. I'll take out the pattern now, and also for this back piece, I'm using the same fabric as my lining. That means I have 4 pieces in total, 2 on each side. I'll start stitching from the neckline along the opening at the back. I'll stitch with half inch along the opening at the back. Also, I'll do the same thing on the other side. This is after I was done stitching the front part. You can see what we have. I have pressed it after stitching. I have also pressed the back after stitching. The armhole of the back is still open. Don't forget to add your loops to one side of the back. Add loops on one side, and the other side you are going to add buttons to it. Add your loops before you close the top part there. Now to join both the front and back along the shoulder, I am going to fix the front part in between the back shoulder, in between the 2 back pieces. Just watch what I'm doing here. I'm going to sandwich the front shoulder in between the two back pieces. Pin it like you see me doing. After pinning, you are going to use the other piece to cover it up like so. Once you are done pinning both pieces together, stitch with 1/2 inch. Once you are done stitching the shoulder, you are going to stitch along the armhole to close the back armhole. I'll repeat the same process on the other side. This is after I was done joining the front and the back along the shoulder. After joining, please press it properly so that part relaxes well on the shoulder. For the lower part, I won't be making use of lining, but if you really want to use a lining for the lower part of this dress and you're working with a stretchy fabric, I would advise that you get a lining that stretches also. Get a stretchy lining if you really want to use a lining. So now the next step is to join the lower part of the front to the upper part. I'll pin it together now and take it to the sewing machine and stitch with 1/2 inch. For the back also, I am going to join both pieces together to the upper part. I'll join it with 1/2 inch. The next step is to fix the zip to the back of the dress. I am going to use my zip to mark where I want it to stop on the dress. Once I get that point where I want the zip to stop, I am also going to mark the slit opening. For this dress, I used 10 inches for the slit opening. From the bottom of the dress, I marked 10 inches. I'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch the part where I marked. After stitching that part, I'll fix the zip. This is after I was done fixing the zip, and the next step on the dress is to join the front and the back together along the side. I'll join it with the allowance I left there. I left 1.5 inches, so I'm going to join with 1.5 inches all the way from the top to the bottom. Once I'm done joining both sides of the dress, I'll hem the bottom. I'll hem the bottom with 1.5 inch. After hemming the bottom, I'll fix my button to the space I have at the top there, and that will be all on the sewing of this dress. Make sure to press your dress after sewing and overlock all the inner seams. Thank you guys for watching. If you found this video helpful, please hit the like button, leave a comment, share this video with your friends, and subscribe to my channel. Please turn on your notification bell so you'll get notified anytime I upload a new video. Will you be recreating the style? Let me know in the comment section, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.